First, let me say it's a pleasure to speak to you in my capacity as an honorary member of your society.
Thank you.
I have my certificate posted in a frame. It was a great pleasure to be elected for that purpose. As a collector, my answer to that is perhaps an unusual one, because there's no real problem with acquiring Ex-Libris. For somebody who wants to do it, you could acquire them by exchange, you acquire them by purchase. You can go online now, which is something rather recent, and buy them if you want to. You can commission them and have your own for exchange purposes. But I'm now been collecting for 40 years, exactly this year. And I'm beginning to ask myself, what do I do with my collection when life comes to an end? And the answer to that is not so easy, because in a way, I would like the collection to be preserved somewhere. But I look around at various museums and libraries who often have excellent collections of Ex-Libris, but they don't take care of them. There's no catalog of them. There's no easy access to them. They don't know what they have. And so I have to ask myself, do I want to add to their problems by giving them a very large collection, which I happen to have, or should I try to sell it, or should I bequeath it to my children who are no interested in Ex-Libris? And so that's the biggest problem I face. It's not an immediate problem, I hope. If it becomes an immediate problem, it'll be the problem of my widow, not me. But otherwise, I think every collector, good collector, thinks about that sooner or later. He says, what do I do with what I've collected? How do I make it useful for future generations?
What are your opinions and suggestions about being a collector?
I think collecting Ex-Libris is one of the most exciting types of collecting there is. It's not like postage stamps where you are dealing with an industrial product and you go to catalogs that give complete, exhaustive listing of every stamp ever produced. Every collector makes discoveries of different kinds. He makes discoveries of new artists, new designers, people who've never been asked before to design an Ex-Libris, or who may have done it but not so often and aren't known to Ex-Libris circles. That's discovering a talent. You discover bookplates that belong to people that nobody has ever known from previous generations. They're new designers, or they're just new owners of bookplates. So it's part of the science of bookplates. Bookplate research is something that every collector can do and can make an original contribution to bookplate scholarship. And there's the friendship of collecting. You meet other collectors, you meet artists and designers, you meet people who are interested in books generally, who want to have a bookplate, but they don't know where to get it, who to approach, etc. It's a very, very enjoyable hobby.
Yes. What are your expectations of artists as a collector?
I think that my expectations are very much recorded in the document that we happen to discuss today. Every artist and designer has his or her own practices in these matters, or if they're just beginning, they ask me for advice as to how they should conduct themselves. I think that, in principle, a bookplate designer should do what he or she is asked to do as best they can. I think they should do it in a way that protects the interests of the client, and therefore, if they want to exhibit and to sell the bookplate, they should agree that with the client. I think that they should be interested in promoting their ability to design bookplates, which is an odd thing to say, but they go hand in glove, because if you design a bookplate for somebody, then of course you want to have the world in general know something about the quality and the originality of your work. And the best way to do that is to exhibit it in various places, catalogs, competitions, wherever it's possible, in fact, to do so. So my expectations are, in one sense, quite modest, but in another sense, quite demanding, because I'm a person, since I collect books as well, who's interested in what we call the bookishness of the book play. It should, if I commission it, have a connection with the book itself. I use them. Of course, I also exchange them, but I use them in my books.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Mr.
my
Butler.
pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Of course, we have to realize that in the European countries, the collectors are getting a bit older. There are few young people. The opposite is in China, for instance, where there are a lot of young collectors and young people interested in it. So what we will see is a geographically change. Now we will see China as a common country. After China, we will see India. Turkey is at the moment coming very quickly, so it will remain. Real art will always be there.